The opportunity to rewrite the rules of online revenue sharing doesn't present itself very often, so European publishers intend to strike while the iron is hot. Four leading industry groups representing thousands of news outlets are pressing EU lawmakers to include an Australia-style clause in sweeping new digital legislation, forcing big tech to pay for news.
What we're looking for is some kind of tool, whether that is an arbitration mechanism or not, some kind of tool that is this big stick that we need to get platforms to sit at the table and negotiate fair and reasonable conditions with publishers on the use of their content.
Down under, the proposed media law sparked a wave of licensing deals with Google, something European media groups hope to replicate. Some experts believe content producers stand to make $2 billion a year in fees, a lifeline for an industry that has struggled to keep its head above water for years.
Monopolies cannot go on very long relying their business model on the free use of content that they do not pay for. They do not compensate those that produce the content.
But some media analysts think the plan could backfire. Big tech may pick and choose who to strike deals with, based on how much engagement that content will generate.
So I can easily see a situation where the large media corporations, they get deals with Facebook and they get some kind of compensation, whereas the small media will be left behind in this.
In Parliament on Tuesday, the EU's chief for digital affairs seemed in no hurry to include a clause on mandatory payments in new digital legislation, instead pointing to the bloc's 2019 copyright reform, which requires major platforms to pay artists and news publishers for content.
I'd say this is so much more a question of copyright. The copyright legislation, where actually as a publisher you have a right to get paid for your content, has only been fully transposed so far in France.
There's a June deadline to enact the legislation, but many member states have fallen behind, leaving news outlets waiting to collect.
The news industry has been trying to convince lawmakers to force big, profitable tech firms to pay for their content for years. But there now appears to be fresh impetus. Governments around the world are growing increasingly concerned that big tech is abusing its power, stymieing innovation, squeezing out competitors, and now blocking content to users. It could be the final straw for lawmakers keen to keep the internet as democratized as possible.